Well, hello there. So, down to one. If anyone is there, I will be right back. Hello, whoever you are. Hey, Jim, how's it going? Just cracking myself a boiled egg here. I'll have a little snack. Just got back from the funeral home. Classmate of mine passed away from a massive heart attack driving a semi down I-95 during rush hour traffic. That was Friday morning. Hey, Christy. That was real fun going to a funeral home for somebody who's not even 50 years old that died of a massive heart attack. And I had a flat tire on the way. Wonderful afternoon. Probably a good reason why I didn't do anything all day. Although I did do a little bit about my biology homework, so I got some of that out of the way. Oh, y'all don't pay any attention to John Public. He's just somebody that happened to be here. He's a new friend of mine. He pretty much only says what I tell him to. Yeah, I'm sorry I lost that guy too. He was one of the few people in this world I trust with just about anything. But he was driving a semi down I-95 in rush hour traffic early in the morning, about 6:45. And instead of thinking of himself, he thought of all the cars that were around him because traffic was just bumper to bumper. And he got that semi off the 6-lane interstate and into a median. And then as soon as he pushed the emergency brake, that's when he really passed away. If he hadn't have done that, there's no telling how many people would have gotten killed in that massive pile up because he was fully loaded. So, in my opinion, that guy's a hero. Oh, I hate asthma, man. I had asthma so bad as a kid. If it was cold weather, Morgan didn't go outside. I'd have asthma attacks out the butt. He was. He would give you the shirt off his back and never think twice about it. If you needed $5 and he only had $4, he'd go find another dollar and come back and give you $5. He was a really good man and a really awesome friend. Here I am dropping my boiled egg. So I hope everybody's had a good weekend. I didn't accomplish anything other than feeding the chickens. That is one of my biggest fears is to get something like that or Alzheimer's, devastating diseases. Tell Kitty you're not coming in this house until Easy Boy gets ready to come in. When he comes to the door to come in, I'll let you both in. You don't get special treatment anymore because you're not a kitty. You, you need to be called Cell Cat now. Aggravating little bastard. You know, when I was younger, time change didn't bother me. Now it takes me 3 or 4 days to get used to it. Then again, I did stay up late last night playing YouTube videos on another account to get some watch time hours and on my phone, and didn't realize that it was time change night. And then I overslept this morning, and I didn't get up till like 10 minutes before church started and said, you know what? I'm not even going to try to go late. And I haven't been in 3 weeks now, and it's starting to kind of eat away at me, but there's always next week. Plus, I'll have the people from the church down the road bugging me all week because they texted 10 minutes before their service started. Are you coming today? I can't stand that. If you're going to pastor a church, don't bug the members if they're coming or not. Either they show up or they don't. It ain't none of your business, and you don't have to remind them. They're all grown adults, so just leave them alone. It's not like I didn't have plans for next Sunday and I've got to change them because the secretary didn't do her job and take the notes right from whenever we had our last business meeting, and we have to redo the whole entire thing again. I got to replant my tomatoes because after Cell Kitty knocked over the thing and killed them all, or basically killed them all, I've got 3 left out of about 35. And I'm hoping at least one of them is the green sausage. But I've got extra Cherokee purple I can plant. And then I reckon I'm going to have to just buy plants because unless it's a special variety, there's no use for me planting from seed anymore. I can just buy them and plant the plants. I can get a bundle of 50 for about $5. And it's worth $5 not to have to spend all that time waiting on them to come up to transplant. I've still got time if I put some cold crops in the ground, but I'm not going to. If I do, it'll just be broccoli or cabbage, but I'm not planning on putting any more in the ground. I've still got cabbage out there. I haven't even eaten the first one. I've given 2 or 3 away, and I've already eaten all my broccoli, and I didn't eat but one mess of mustard greens that I grew, and I didn't eat none of the turnips. So I'm just pulling them up as they bolt, or my collards, and I'm just feeding them to the chickens and the hogs. Yeah, they would have showed up at my house to preach at me, and I would have shoved them the door. Oh, I'll probably fry some cabbage. I'll probably boil some cabbage. I'll probably throw some on the grill with some olive oil, Italian seasoning, and some salt and pepper. Probably make a little bit of kraut because I've got about 15 heads, and there's no way I can eat 15 heads of cabbage before they go bad. Beach family, glad you made it. Nice to see you. Guys, Beach family just started a channel. They haven't gotten content up yet, but check them out. I think they're going to do pretty well. Oh, yeah. Gotta have kraut because a hot dog don't taste right unless it's got some sauerkraut on it. I love my sauerkraut on hot dog. I love sauerkraut with a nice kielbasa sausage cooked in it. Man, that's some good eating right there. Along with some new potatoes. Well, that's what we call the red potatoes down in the south. We call them new potatoes. I don't know why. I mean, they're red at the grocery store in the bag, and they're definitely not new. They've been stored, but those would be the videos that I would start with right there, Beach Family. Because a lot of people missed out on going to the gathering, and I haven't seen many videos posted yet. So if you can, get you a couple of them posted, and then whatever you do in your garden, just document it, explain what you're doing. As Justin Rhodes said, just pick up the camera and start talking about what you're doing and go from there. And as you notice, we'll start off with gardening. In this conversation, there's no telling where it's going to end up. I really don't have any idea. I use my local um, telephone company. They have internet service, so that's who I use. Yeah, and I saw you were doing like I did, Christy. You were watching both live streams, Two Family and Deep South. I was doing the same thing, going back and forth, even though it was the same screen basically. Other than Daryl had the second camera for those who sat down to talk. Other than that, it was the same. But I really hated the only songs that I got to hear Daniel sing. The audio was messed up on, and I really wanted to hear Daniel sing because I've heard him on Roots and Refuge, but I've never really gone to his YouTube channel to listen to it. But the man is talented. He's very talented, and I do enjoy Christian music, especially from someone who plays it in a way that he does. It's kind of more of a folk music, and not rock and roll, not blues. I mean, and it's not pure out gospel or hillbilly. It's just good, wholesome music. If that were me and they wanted $5 grand to run a line across that, I'd go with satellite. Daryl worked his tail off that day. Let me tell you what, because he did the entire thing and he did an awesome job setting it up with the cameras and the audio. Granted, I don't think he had enough equipment to really do different angles of camera work or different areas of the gathering, which would have been great. But he did an amazing job of what he had with him. I even left a comment said MGM called. They want their studio back. Yeah, you got a point there. Only thing I could suggest is be shop around for internet, satellite internet. You know, like with a package deal with cable and all that, and see what you can find. Or you can be like Boss of the Swamp. Do your videos through the week, because he lives in the middle of nowhere and has no internet service. And then on Saturdays, he goes to the library in town. He uploads his videos for Sunday morning. You remember that comment? Yeah, that was the best thing I could think of at the time because, I mean, MGM called. They want their studio back. Sorry for eating in front of you, but I haven't eaten today because I had that funeral home viewing to go to tonight, and it's just been bugging me all day. And now that I've come home and I've had a Xanax and a pain pill because I'm sore from piddling around yesterday, which I still didn't accomplish anything. I just piddled around. But I finally got my appetite back, and I boiled some eggs yesterday, so I'm eating them today. A friend of mine works at a chicken house, and he would bring me flats of eggs, and these are the last ones of those because now I've got three Bantams, one mid-sized chicken. I reckon you can call her a Bantam, and I've got two Red Rangers. And I know the Red Rangers aren't going to be big egg producers, but I'm averaging two, sometimes three eggs a day, so I don't need his eggs anymore. And since I've had these for roughly a month, they would be hitting the grocery store shelves right about now. So I figured I'd go ahead and I boiled the last of what I had from him. So now all I got are fresh ones in the refrigerator. Yeah, but Christy, see, the thing is, I don't have to watch you to chew. You guys, I'm being really rude by eating in front of you and probably talking with my mouth full. But I've got to go to class tomorrow, and I'll miss the funeral because I had to miss a day last week because I didn't have the gas money because of this employment situation where they're not giving me the hours that I rightly deserve, since how I've got 5 years experience in that place and 27 years experience overall in managing restaurants. And I wind up with 7.5 hours this week on the clock. Give me a 4 hour shift and then make me take a break because your labor's high. Not my problem. In the state of Georgia, 4 hours and less, I'm not required to take a break. I can refuse, but I did the good boy thing. I kept my mouth shut, and I was a team player. I took the break. And then I highly do not recommend this, but to make ends meet until I get my next paycheck, a friend of mine has cysts on her ovaries really bad. So I sold her 4 or 5 of my pain pills so I'll have gas money to go back into the school this week, or otherwise I wouldn't be able to make it. And then I'd miss another day. And I don't want to miss it any more than I have to because I miss so much information by hearing her talk. And to top it off, on the way to the funeral home, I had a flat tire that I had to change. So naturally, that made me a little bit more sore. And I'd been doing good all day. I hadn't had my pain meds and none of that because I was just taking it easy. I was what if you guys don't subscribe to Lehto's Law, Lehto, man, it's some good advice. And he's funny, got a sense of humor. And then there's another channel I like, Think Like a Cop. This guy's funny as crap. He tells funny cop stories from when he was a police officer, and some of them are just hilarious. And so I spent the day watching those two because, oddly enough, today was really weird. Not many YouTubers posted anything on our area, I mean, very few homesteaders posted anything at all, which is odd. Although Boss of the Swamp, he posted this morning, which I was glad to see because I know he's got a issue with cancer in his skull. I don't think it's in the brain. And then I think he's got another spot somewhere else, and they're going to take those out pretty soon. But y'all keep him in your prayers too, because he's decided he doesn't want to go the chemo route. He's just going to let the surgery do what it can, and then that's pretty much it. But he said he didn't know he might change his mind and do chemo anyway, and I hope he does because I really enjoy his videos. I mean, he's an awesome guy. He's got practical knowledge, and his rat trap made out of the 5-gallon bucket in his videos, and then his voiceover of the rats talking, they're hilarious. All right, Beast family, thanks for stopping by. And a word to the wise: when you get your channel up and running, start doing these live streams because that will boost your watch hours up a whole lot faster than just putting up a 10-minute video and hoping that 5 or 10 people watch it and it spreads. You'll get a lot more watch time this way. Because if you get 5 people watching and you're on for 2 hours, then you get 10 hours of watch time versus a 10-minute video that's watched 5 times. You only got 50 minutes. But thanks for stopping in, and I was glad I could be your first subscriber. And looking forward to seeing some content whenever you get it put up. I'm sure you're going to do great. If it came down to cancer, I have mixed feelings on chemo. It would depend on the type of cancer and the aggressiveness and how far along it was. I'm using the webcam on my laptop. You know, I've got a studio room set up, but I just haven't put a desk in there to put my laptop on to actually do it in there. So I just sit in my easy chair and do it. But yeah, you don't have to have anything fancy to do a live stream. Matter of fact, Roots and Refuge and Deep South Homestead, they do theirs off laptop. Hey, Kristen, how you doing? I can't remember, but I think I saw your name in the live stream yesterday for Deep South Homestead and Two Family when they were at the gathering. I know I saw Jim there. Yeah, chemo is some harsh stuff. I mean, not only does it kill cancer cells, but it messes with other parts of your body at the same time. It's really devastating. All right. See you tomorrow, Beach. I I may not be on tomorrow night. I've got a online assignment to do for a class I'm taking in college, but I will more than likely do another live stream Tuesday. But I'll try and keep putting the reminders up, at least one every day, maybe 2 that day before I go live. Try and get a few more folks in here because we have some really good conversations sometimes. Well, Kristen, I'm doing good now that I'm back from the funeral home. I lost a classmate of mine from a heart attack. He was one of the few people I actually would trust with my life. Now I'm down to less than what I can count on my hand. And I thought I would be all right, but I almost broke down, seeing his son and his dad there. And, I mean, I'm glad to be away from there. As soon as I got home, I took half a Xanax, and since I had to change a flat tire that I had on the way to the funeral home, I took half of one of my pain pills. So hadn't had an appetite all day, but now that the Xanax is working, my appetite's coming back. So I'm eating the egg. I hate to be rude and chew on camera, but I'm hungry. I haven't eaten all day. It's been worrying me on my mind all day. He may have passed away. And excuse me for talking with my mouth full, but the man is a hero. He's on I-95 in South Florida, 6-lane interstate. He's having this heart attack. And instead of worrying about himself, the cars were surrounded him. This rush hour traffic, 6:45, 6:30 in the morning, rush hour traffic, bumper to bumper. He gets that semi onto an exit and then pulls in that little B-shaped thing area of grass where the interstate is and the off ramp. He pulls in there with his flashers on, and as soon as he hits the emergency stop brake, which locks all the air brakes down, he passed away right then. As soon as DOT got there was nothing they could do, and they were there within minutes. But there was nothing they could do. He was already gone. But there's no telling how many lives he saved, because if he'd have thought, if it'd been another half mile down the road, it would have been another 5 miles before he could have got to another exit. And he probably could have gotten his way from the left-hand lane over. But there's no telling how many lives he saved by doing that. He was more worried about the people around him than he was himself. I'm trying to stay healthy, and this the last one of these, because I've lost 2 friends in the last 3 months from heart problems, and I know this is a big cause of heart attacks. These are going. Plus, I'm a poor ass white boy. I ain't got no money, so I don't need to be spending it on that. Yeah, and I made sure to tell his mom and his dad and his son. And his son's birthday is today, and his son is giving his dad's eulogy tomorrow. And he got in with the wrong crowd, got mixed up with drugs, and he's been in and out of trouble with the law for the past 5, 6 years or so. And he's currently in rehab in another state, but they brought him back down here because his dad passed away. And the day after your birthday, you've got to give your father's eulogy. I mean, now for the rest of his life, his birthday is associated with the death of his dad, and that is, it's a terrible thing. And I've known him since he was a wee little old thing and watched him grow up. And looks a lot like his dad. And I told him tonight, I said, if there's ever anything you need, you know how to get in contact with me. I'll help you stay clean. I'll help you stay sober, because we actually met eyeball to eyeball in a courtroom back in December. I was there for a traffic violation, and he was there for other charges that I didn't stick around to listen to it, but we met, nodded heads, and acknowledged each other. And he mentioned that today, and I said, "Yeah, the judge screwed me over on the plea deal." So I feel for you. I know you got screwed too. But I told him, I said, "I'll help you out any way I can. You know, if you ever need someone to talk to, you just get in touch with me." Well, this boy just accepted the Lord into his life 3 weeks ago. So him going back into recovery, they encourage the religious part of it because they understand you can't do it by yourself. And if you are one of the lucky ones that do it by yourself, you're not a typical person. You're an anomaly on the radar. So he's going to have help behind him. Virginia, did you sneak in on me? Christian Jim. Yeah, Virginia, you snuck in on me. Glad to see you. I saw you on a live chat earlier today, or a live stream earlier today, or it might have been yesterday with the Deep South, because you always have hello from Long Island. You got that tube buddy thing going on. But yeah, I think he's going to have enough support that he'll be able to make it. And whenever he gets through with his time up there, if he doesn't have any jail time to do, I'll invite him to come stay with me, and it would help me out and help him out, and I'll see if I can't keep him on the straight and narrow, because my medication, he won't even. Yeah, it was Deep South. I saw you on Virginia, but my medications he will never get his hands on because I don't leave them laying around. Even when I go to school, they stay in my pants pocket. I mean, I don't leave them laying around nowhere because I've had them stolen once, and you don't get a refill just because they were stolen. Even if you fill out a police report, doctors in my state are not allowed to refill that prescription for you, even with a police report. They've changed a lot of laws down here, and I'm actually glad of it, cracking down on some of this opioid abuse. I mean, I get prescribed opioids, but I normally break mine in half, and I don't take them unless I got to because I've seen what they do, and it's a terrible life that those people live. And then, hey, Homestead and the Hard Way, is that you, Chris, or is that the better half? Yeah, I watched your videos on how to tell the difference between boy pigs and girl pigs. Oddly enough, I left a comment that I get people asking me to tell the sex of their kittens and puppies. I don't know what they're teaching in biology in school nowadays, but if you can't look at an animal and tell what's what, you had a very bad biology teacher, and you need to ask for your tax money back because you didn't get an education. It, Jim, I know you know him, but if any of you guys in the chat don't know Homestead and the Hard Way with Chris and his wife, check them out. They are a very good channel, lots of practical tips. You can't go wrong with watching their videos. I mean, it's all down to earth, practical knowledge. It ain't any of this fancy organic. All we use is pink Himalayan salt. All we use is organic chicken feed. He does things the logical way. And that's the way farming should be, logical. You take care of your land will take care of your plants. If you got to use a poison to kill a bug, use a poison to kill a bug. If you don't. But just don't overdo it. He's got the right idea. He grew up like I did. You only use what you need and you don't go overboard with it. Backyard Homestead, how you doing? Oh yeah, check them out. You can't go wrong with them. Chris has got some practical knowledge to pass on to you. I highly recommend the video where he makes a weed hoe out of a regular garden hoe, which is made for digging. Highly recommend that because I'm fixing to buy myself another hoe just to do that because I've been wanting to do that for a long time and have not been able to get to it. Let me see. There we go. I'm gonna give Jim a wrench. He gave me a wrench the other night. I'm gonna give him one. Did I say Jim? I meant Chris because I'm giving Jim one right now. Well, appetite has been quelled for a little while. That's right. Chris does not sugarcoat it. He tells you exactly the way it is. A lot of these new kids, I suggested a channel to Chris and said, "You got to watch these guys. They're hilarious because they don't know what the hell they're doing." He watched it and left a comment on one of my videos. Said, "Yeah, I checked them out. You're right. They don't know what they're doing." And I laughed too. I mean, I normally wouldn't even watch a video from somebody like them because I wouldn't want them making money off me. But sometimes you just want to watch something funny. You know, most people get chickens as a first animal on a farm. These two went out and got a pony because they were buying a mule and they didn't want the mule to be alone. So they got the pony first, then the mule came. So I left them a comment. A pony is a horse and a mule is an ass. So that must mean you're a horse's ass. They didn't like that too much, but I couldn't resist. I mean, it was the joke was right there. I couldn't resist. And their subscribers jumped down my throat whenever I made one constructive criticism to them. Not even in a mean way, just a nice, hey, you might want to try so and so because you're not using treated lumber and it's so close to the ground, it's going to rot and cause you problems. Well, they all jumped down my throat. And it's like, we're not going to subscribe to you. And I'm like, good. I wouldn't want you to subscribe to me anyway. You might learn something that would benefit you. And if you're too stupid to realize I'm trying to tell him something to benefit him, I don't need you. But if you want to know the channel we're talking about, is Out in the Country, OITC. And this girl looks like a deer in the headlights, no facial expression at all. And he comes across as he's the smartest guy in the world and knows how to do everything. But they're talking about using the money from they get from YouTube to remodel their home, but yet they go out and they spend all this money on hay, then a horse, and then a mule. And I'm thinking, shouldn't remodeling your home for your kids and yourself come first? Apparently not. I don't know. I guess animals come before a nice place to live. Christy Betts, you got some Southern in you. Bless their hearts. See, but that's the thing about it, Chris. They won't listen to common sense. They're still in that young, dumb, and stupid stage where they've got the world by the tail, or at least they think they do, and they know everything. It ain't like it was back when we were coming up, where you listen to mom and dad and you actually learn something. These are the kind of people that they ain't going to listen to you because they know better than you do, because they read it on the internet. They may be adorable, but they're dumb as hell. But the guy went out and bought a machine to pound fence posts into the ground because he thought in Michigan the ground would be so hard this time of year that he wouldn't be able to pound the post into the ground with a regular fence post tool. Come to find out, he did it with both of them and was faster with the one that wasn't gas powered. I guess he didn't realize that snow insulates the ground and it's not as frozen as you think it is. Even though I do know up there it can be frozen down to 6 foot, but whenever you're pounding on something hard enough, I mean, you're just breaking the ice and it separates and it'll slide right on down. And there's a lot of them on YouTube like that. Christy, I forget where you're from, but Chris with Homestead and the Hard Way, he's just a couple hours north of me in North Carolina. So we're both Southern boys. And that's exactly why you'll never see me in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan at all, unless maybe it's to go to a NASCAR race in the summertime. I have no business going any further than the Georgia state line because Morgan and snow do not mix. Oh, yeah, you got some gumbo clay in Alabama. And there's some gumbo clay over on this side of I'm on the East Coast. And there's some gumbo clay over here, and I don't like gumbo clay. Although if you get it mixed in with your soil just right where you ain't got too much, it carries a very high nutrient load. I know how I deal with that much snow, Chris. I stay inside. NASCAR is still 8 hours south of you. Wow, you must be Canadian almost. Which I haven't even checked out today's NASCAR results. I've got yellow sand where I am. As a matter of fact, Mars Candy Company, we've got sand hills all around where I live, and they used to be barrier islands. And the people who own Mars Candy for M&Ms and all that, they wanted to come through and mine titanium out of these old barrier islands. We call them sand hills. But they wanted to mine the titanium out because they used the titanium to make the white letters that go on the M&Ms. They got turned down. The environmental activists came, even though they had a perfect plan to put everything back the way it was, and the only thing that would have been extracted was the titanium. The tree huggers, they all said no. Could have been worth billions to South Georgia, but the tree huggers said no. And it's just like drilling for oil. I mean, sometimes you got to have stuff, and technology has come a long, long way in the last few years, and there's no reason why we can't mine these minerals and extract them in a way that's not harmful to the environment. Yeah, most of our clay around here is either toward the coast, it's red, and where I am, there's a little bit of red, but mostly it's yellow and green and yellow sand. I knew some folks that lived in the Upper Peninsula, and whenever the U.S. went to digital over-the-air TV, they got stuck watching Canadian TV, and they said it was all right for the most part, but some of the comedy just wasn't as funny as American comedy. Hey, we got a St. Mary's River in Georgia. It overlooks Florida. At the time, they couldn't afford Netflix. But yeah, I don't even have TV. I use Netflix, and I wind up watching YouTube more than I do Netflix. I might watch 2 or 3 movies a month on Netflix, and that's it. Matter of fact, the other night I watched Animal House again. Hadn't seen it in years, and I miss John Belushi. He was one of the funniest people ever. I loved him. Great guy. You are probably talking about the gopher tortoise. We have the same problem in South Georgia. You are not allowed to relocate them or anything. And those suckers, we're talking about a 200-pound fully grown tortoise. And when he digs a hole, he digs a hole. I'm talking about a hole, sometimes 3, 4 foot across. We used to have rattlesnakes and have rattlesnake roundups, but they outlawed that because the rattlesnake would go down there in that tortoise hole, and they would spend the winter in there, and then before the rattlesnakes came out in the spring, these people would go and they would squirt a little bit of gasoline down in there, and the rattlesnake would come out and they'd catch him. Well, the problem was the tortoise wouldn't come out, and he would die from the fumes. So they outlawed rattlesnake roundups, which, eh, I could take them or leave them, but they harvested them for the meat and the anti-venom. So, I mean, they were doing something good, but there's still people out there that rattlesnake hunt, and they catch plenty of them. Yep, that's a gopher tortoise. North Florida's got a lot of gopher tortoises in it. I lived in one county just about 30 miles east of me. It was a lot sandier than where I am, and there were so many of them. You'd see them walk across your front yard all the time. And I had one neighbor that had a dog that gopher tortoise had a burrow right outside the driveway, and it would come out and eat the dog poop and then go back in its hole. It didn't forage for food at all, and they're vegetarian, so most dog food's made out of grain anyway instead of meat. So the turtle had it made. He'd come out, eat the dog poop, go back home. But I wonder if Florida has a law that they reimburse an owner that has a horse that goes lame and you have to put them down because of one of those holes. Makes me want to check it out. I might look into that later on. I'm curious now. Yeah, you're right, Chris. If there's any way the state can get out of giving a citizen money back, they're going to find it and they're going to do it. That's just like the flat tire I got. It's because they don't keep the roads up in the county that I live in, and I'm not going to get reimbursed for that. I'm going to wind up having. I'm hoping that the hole in it is not so big I can't plug it. If not, then I got to buy two tires because it don't do you any good to buy one tire because that just makes the other tire wear out faster, and so you're better off buying two tires at a time or either four tires. Never buy one tire at a time unless you plan on buying two new tires in the near future and you just want something to get you by till you can do it. Oh yeah, they would probably pay you if you could provide the body where the hawk actually killed it because they'll say you're lying that no, you didn't have that many chickens and that hawk didn't. Which then again, that's a touchy subject around here because hawks they suddenly die of cardiac arrest. I'll never shoot a hawk, but I'll give him a heart attack with lead. That's what I do is I do two at a time, and I'm hoping I don't have to buy two at a time this time. I'm hoping I can patch it and get another year out of it because it's a good year and it's already 4 years old. So I mean it's getting time, but I still got enough tread I can get another year out of it. And I've noticed that the way that good year, I've noticed the way that the treads wear on it, it hasn't worn any slower than the cheapest tire Walmart sells. So I will never buy another Goodyear tire. Yeah, that game warden lied to you. I had a friend that had a $300 game rooster. He doesn't fight chickens or anything like that. He just likes game chickens because I mean they're beautiful, beautiful birds. But a hawk got his $300 prize rooster. He'll never see a dime out of it. He's just out $300. And that's probably what I'll do is get into breeding specific breeds of chickens because I've been pricing Dominickers, and I want a flock of Dominickers, but they cost so blame much. They want $5 a piece for a chick. So if I got to buy straight run at $5 a piece, I'll do it, and I'll get me about 10 of them. And out of 10, I know I'm going to have at least one rooster and one female, and I'm going to start breeding them, and I'll start selling chicks, and I'll sell them at a decent price, $2 or $3 a piece, the way they should be. Yeah, my two favorite breeds are the Dominickers and the Rhode Island Reds. Whenever I get an incubator, I'll let you know because I'd definitely be interested in some eggs. 25-pound game rooster. Good God, what were they feeding him? I had a Cornish cross before a hawk got it, and it was almost 6 months old, and it only weighed about 18 pounds. Yeah, you can mail eggs. I think it's like a 7-day thing before you have to have them in the incubator. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and check because I know they mail order a lot of quail eggs and stuff like that. A 25-pound chicken, yeah, you got to have something bigger than a bird scale for him. Right now, the hens that I have haven't even started to lay, and the breeds they are, I got them as a fry pan special from Myers Hatchery. They were supposed to all be roosters, but about 90% of the 50 I ordered came in as hens. So the ones they sent, they may or may not go broody. I just have to wait and see. If I need a chicken that's going to go broody to hatch eggs, I'll get some silkies. They're real good at going broody. Chris, he may live in a city or something like that. Which, if that were the case, I'd put him in my garage and wouldn't worry about him. I could see where you'd need it out there. In Georgia, we have to have a permit for bobwhite quail because it's a native species, but we don't have to have a permit for Coturnix quail, which is what most people grow for meat birds. And that's just as bad because Coturnix quail out in the wild will outcompete bobwhite quail any day, and then you'll decimate the bobwhite quail population. So if I do quail, I'm doing bobwhite. I don't care if they are seasonal layers or not. I'll just deal with it. All right, Jim. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. And I've got to get out my garden this week with the tiller and get it tilled up again to get that grass tilled under real good so it doesn't come back. Because it's getting time for me to plant some sweet corn, let it get up about 2 or 3 weeks. Yep, that'd be my whole plan with bobwhite if I do them. I would eat what I want because I like quail, but I mean, I'm not going to eat them but a couple times a year. The rest of them, I would get them flight trained and let them go. But I'm going to get my corn about 2 weeks old or 3, a good dose of nitrogen to get them to go ahead and sprout on up. Then I'm gonna plant my green beans and use my corn stalks as a trellis. And then every other row, I'm gonna put my squash in between the corn rows. I'm gonna do the Three Sisters garden the modern way. It ain't gonna be no circle. It's gonna be rows. No, sir. With my bad back, I don't need. My garden's about 75 foot by 100 foot, and I can't even till it all in the same day with my bad back. Yeah, but Christina, you can always find somebody with a rooster and borrow them for a couple weeks, and then give them back. Yep, you're right on that. Turn a hen loose whenever the mail comes by, they'll make it. I've even seen these people get so worried about their chickens and roosters. For one, they had too many roosters in the pen, but poor old hen lose her feathers on the back from being mated so many times. And they don't realize that when the fall comes and they molt, the next spring they get new feathers. But they should have realized that if you've got more than one rooster to every, say, 5 to 7 hens, you got too many roosters. And it's time for chicken and dumplings if you got too many roosters. Which right now I've got 3 roosters, but man, when I was a boy, we had so many people growing grain and corn down here that it wasn't nothing to go out and in 20 minutes you had your limit on quail. You In the last 2 years, I've run across one covey of quail on my dad's property, and it's mostly timber, which surprised me. And I thought about going out and taking one or two, but then I said no. That's the first cubby of quail I've seen here in almost 20 years. I'm leaving them alone. And as a matter of fact, I went out and bought some Bahia grass seed, and where they had cut timber on the neighbor's land, I scattered that Bahia grass seed all over the place just to give the quail a little something extra to eat for grain. But now, rabbits, if you want some rabbits, I'll smuggle you some across the border. I got a bad problem with rabbits. And the worst part is I can go out and I can kill 1 or 2 rabbits a night, but it ain't worth my time to skin them out. So I'll wind up digging a hole, planting a tree or a rose bush on top of it. And I'm running out of money for rose bushes and trees. So now I just shoot the rabbits and tie a rock around them and throw them in the pond and let the turtles eat them. That's right, Christy. It's hard to get a rooster to stop spurring whenever he's got that attitude to protect his hens. He means it. He gets very protective. Yeah, I love rabbit too. And if if I make a trip out rabbit hunting specifically for them, and I get 4 or 5 enough to make it worth my time to clean, yeah, they get cleaned up in a hurry, put in the freezer or either the refrigerator, depending on how long it's going to be before I decide to eat them. And we, as Bugs Bunny would say, we have an Hassan pepper. And squirrel too. Oh man, rabbit's just as good as fried chicken. Smother fried rabbit with rice and gravy. Yeah, if rabbits are scarce, I'd do the same thing. If I saw 2 or 3, I'd take one. Yep, rose hips come from roses. They make really good tea. Peaches are actually roses. The fruit's a rose hip. Let's put it this way: if it walks or crawls or doesn't eat me first, I will at least try it. We still got a few of the old timers around here that they'll do the coon hunts at night, and it's annoying when you try to sleep. But I tell you what, whenever you're out there with the dogs, hearing them baying, man, that's some kind of fun. Yeah, you can grow your own rose bushes, and you never know what you're going to get. They're all open pollinated, so every seed will produce a different rose. No two will be alike. Nope, rabbit doesn't taste like chicken. Sometimes it tastes better if it's cooked right. I like mine deep fried and then smothered in gravy with some potatoes or some rice on the side, or either in dumplings. And about the same way with squirrel. Ain't nothing like a good mess of fried squirrel. Yeah, I don't do much hunting for animals that I don't see much of, like quail. I've given up on quail hunting because I don't see them very much. Um, we got a couple other species down here that like fishing. We get those little old bitty pike, redfin pike. They get about that long. They taste really good, but it takes about 10 of them for one person to eat to get a belly full. And I've gotten to where if I catch one of those, I let them go. I mean, I don't even keep those anymore because they're so rare. I don't. If it's something that I don't see very much anymore, I let it walk. Now, doe on the other hand, she's going in the freezer, especially if she's got her nose over the fence of my garden. She's going in the freezer. I don't care if it's season or not, or I hadn't gotten around to getting the permit to shoot them out of season because they're eating my garden. It goes in the freezer. Man, year before last, My dad's got about 45 pecan trees, and I killed, after I stopped counting at 137, I kept killing. And that was just in 4 pecan trees. I didn't make it to the other 45 or 40 or so. I did get a couple of them down that way whenever I'd walk with the shotgun, but I mostly shot them with a 22. It got to the point that it wasn't even fun unless it was 50 yards away and I was taking a headshot, and I don't shoot with a scope at all. I have no scopes on any of my rifles. It's iron sights or nothing. But I was taking headshots at 50 yards, and 2 out of 3 times I was hitting them. I mean, it was starting to get boring at that. But I lost count after 137. I just quit counting. I know I bought 2 bricks of 22 shells that had 100 shells in each brick, and I've got just part of one left. I've had a couple squirrel dogs. There's nothing more fun in the world than hunting with a squirrel dog. Well, yeah, backyard, you got to have ammo or the gun ain't going to work properly. Hey, Papa Pepper. Yeah, that's where I quit counting how many squirrels I killed that year. Out of 4 trees. And my dad's got 45 total. So how's it been going, Papa Pepper? Your peas coming up yet? I call them limb rats. That's what I call them. Either that or dinner. That's more fun than me. I went to a funeral home. A classmate of mine passed away from a heart attack. He was driving a semi down I-95 at 6:45 in the morning, had a heart attack. And hero that he was, didn't think about himself. He got that truck off the road so that nobody else got hurt. Yep, that's why I call him a limb rat. Yeah, this guy was 48 years old, massive heart attack. But there's no telling how many lives he saved thinking about getting that truck off the road instead of thinking about getting himself seen about. Because it was rush hour traffic on a 6-lane part of I-95 in Green Cro- Green Grove Springs, Florida, or somewhere around that area. And that was all he could think about, was getting that truck off the road before anybody else got hurt. Dale, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Let me go ahead and do this. Give old Papa Pepper there a wrench. I like the way he thinks. He's got a great channel. If you guys haven't checked him out, go check him out. He's got a good technique. He thinks logically. He uses what's available to him. He's It's like he grew up in the 70s, in the 60s, like me and Chris would homestead the hard way. Make do with what you got and learn how to use what you have wisely. Well, you deserve it, buddy. I've been watching your videos and you impress me with the knowledge that you have to be such a young guy. You really impress me because you know what you're talking about and you research it out before you jump in. You don't just jump in feet first or head first like most folks. You take your time and you research it and you learn. And if only more people did that, they'd have a whole lot more success in their gardens and in their lives in general. But they don't. So it takes them a little bit longer to let life teach them lessons instead of learning from the elders in the community that know the lay of the land. Speaking of Mama Pepper, when's the little one due? Pretty soon we're gonna have to get together and get you a basketball goal because you'll have six. That's enough for a team. Get them all out there practicing. And if you keep going, we'll buy you some baseball equipment so you have your baseball team. Oh, I hope it goes a little bit longer than 2 more weeks. Let's hope for 3 at least. Get it close to April 2nd. But you guys, you're out of that danger window, so it'd be all right. But I wish you guys the best and congratulations on that new one. There you go. 6-on-6 basketball. You've already got your other team. Hang on a second. I got to go to the fridge and get me something to drink. Nope, I'm on Coke. Very seldom do I drink. See, now I'll tell you a story about me and children. I have one daughter and I have one grandson. My daughter is 22 this next year. And well, what had happened was me and her mother were how should we say, we were practicing on how to make tricycle motors. And I said, "Oh God, oh baby." Well, whenever you say "oh God," he automatically pays attention to you. So he thought that I was talking to him, and "oh baby" came out, and you go, "Oh, they want a child." Okay, boom, there you go. So she got pregnant. Well, ever since then, the first time I've ever been with a woman, I always holler out, "Oh God, oh Jeep Cherokee." But it hasn't worked. I don't have a Jeep Cherokee yet, so I don't know what to say on that topic. But that's just my thought on it. All boys, wow, that can be a blessing in disguise having them all close in age. one of the girls I graduated high school with, she had a brother that was 7 years younger than her. Then her mom got pregnant again when that boy was 7 years old. So this poor lady went through 21 straight years of teenagers. I couldn't handle 21 straight years of teenagers. But tomorrow afternoon, I've got some weeding to do. And Papa Pepper, I hope your peas have come up. Most of mine have, and I've got to get out there and replant the few skips that I have in the row, so that they're not lagging behind. Oh, Christy, I was talking about how I figured out where children come from. When you say "Oh God," you got his attention. When you say "Oh baby," boom, you get pregnant. And after that, I started saying "Oh God, oh Jeep Cherokee," and so far that hasn't worked. But my Irish potatoes got hit a little bit by the frost that we had a couple days ago, but nothing that they're not going to recover from. And most of them come up. I've got a couple skips, but I'm not going to worry about replanting those. Well, I like Jeep Cherokees. It's not my fault. And besides, Jeep Cherokee is a lot easier to say than Jeep Wrangler. My last frost is usually the last week of March, the last week of March or the week before. But in the South, we have this saying where I live that there is always that last frost before Easter. And it pretty much holds up to be true. Although Easter this year is, I think, 2 or 3 weeks after our last predicted frost date. So in the next week or two, I'll be planting my sweet corn. And then about 2 weeks later, I'll be planting my green beans so that they can use the corn as the trellis. And then every other row of corn, I'm going to plant my squash down it. So that way I've got a Three Sisters garden without the little round teepee with the sticks for the trellis and all that. The heck with that. Corn stalk works great, especially if you do like I do whenever they tassel out and the silks come. Every afternoon for a few days, I'll go out there and I'll cut a tassel off and I'll go by and I'll dab it on all the silks. And once I know I've got them all pollinated, then I go through and I cut off the entire section of tassels. I cut them completely off because after the corn's pollinated, there's no use in the plant using energy to keep that green and growing. So I channel that energy back into the cob of corn, and it works out really well. Get nice, fat, plump, juicy ears. I need a truck myself because I'm tired of not being able to buy as much feed as I want to whenever I can. If I had a truck, I could get some 55-gallon drums and go buy in bulk, but I'm stuck buying by the bag. If I get a half inch of rain here, I can't till my garden for a week. I'm on a slope toward a pond, so I've constantly got the water from uphill draining down, and it takes a week for it to dry out deep enough for me to be able to put my tiller in. Even though I'll have to turn the water on in the meantime because the top part's already dried out. Christy, if you think we got it bad, think about those poor old people up north. When that snow melts, man, you know it's muck. Good night, Virginia. We'll see you on the next stream. Thanks for stopping. Actually, mine's not really on a slope. It might slope 2 inches from one side to the other in 100 feet, which isn't much of a slope, but it's just a half mile up the road all the way down to my pond drains underneath the soil. And it stays. Deep rooted plants do well around here. It's the shallow ones that I have the most problem with. Yeah, I can imagine. The last couple of years we've been beat up by hurricanes. You've had the same ones to deal with that I have. Yeah, my slope garden does. I've got rows going in two different directions. The ones that can't stand to be wet, the rows go with the slope. The ones that like the water, I go across so that way it makes swells and the water stays in the rows. Man, I'm glad to see him too. This is the most I've had. It's been a good night, and we've actually stayed more on topic of gardening because normally we'll get off on what's happening in the world of politics and stuff like that, and all kinds of topics. You name it, we've talked about it. But in about 3 weeks, I'll be 3 or 4 weeks. Well, by the 1st of April, I'll have my squash and my pickling cucumbers in the ground. I'm going to wind up having to buy some tomato plants since Sale Kitty decided to dump all of my sprouts over and broke them all. I've got 3 out of 38 tomato sprouts left alive because Sale Kitty had to knock my tray over in the middle of the night, 4 o'clock in the morning. So Sale Kitty became Fly Kitty out the front door. It's either that or plant cover crops, Christy. And I highly recommend clovers, nitrogen fixing legumes for fall and winter cover crops, and rye because they don't live very long once it warms up, and you can till them under quite easily, and you've got a good organic base to add to your soil. Man, autocorrect gets me all the time, Chris. Don't feel bad. And then whenever I get on my laptop to start typing, I'm expecting it to finish the word for me, so I'm already looking to correct it. So I gotta actually try and remember what I'm holding in my hand. Do I have the laptop or do I have the phone? But I'm fixing to start me some watermelon seeds because I normally can't start them until about the second week of April. But I want to have some for July 4th. And I've got my Charleston Gray, which is my favorite. Well, I've got two favorites, Charleston Gray, and if you've never tried them, Carolina Cross. Carolina Cross is a nice long watermelon, and it's very, very sweet. And they produce really well too. And I'm debating on whether or not to start a few of these Cherokee tan pumpkins. That way, I can get an early crop on them, and then a late crop. That way, I can get a taste of them as quick as possible because I can't wait to taste these things. His name's Papa Pepper for a reason, and I like hot peppers too. I haven't tried the ghost pepper yet, the jalokia, but I'm going to. And I want to try the Carolina Reaper. I want to try that one because I sell a lot of hot peppers to Latinos, and I've actually grown jalapenos so hot that even a fried jalapeno made them cough. It was so hot. A few of them, they tried to, they gave me some good techniques on what to do to make them really hot, and their techniques worked out really well. They ain't got to be red to be super hot. You got to wait for those little brown cracks to develop on the side. And once you get the little brown cracks, that's as hot as it's going to get. That and do them like tomatoes. Put a dead fish up under them and they'll go crazy. I had that happen last fall with some of my seed too. I haven't even started any pepper seed. I normally don't start pepper seed. I just go buy them straight from the nursery. There's a nursery about 15 miles away from me, and I go buy them by the bundle. And they got jalapeno, Tabasco, uh, Anaheim's, you name it, they got it. They've got the Reapers. They grow them all. Yeah, I've got a pond by the house, so every once in a while I'll go out and I'll met people will drive by and they'll see me with a tape measure holding up a fish, measuring it like there's some kind of legal limit on the size of brim. No, I'm calculating how many I need to finish out the row that I'm going to put them in before I cover them up and plant over the top of them. Oh yeah, Chris, you got to grow cayenne. In the southeast United States, that is the main hot pepper we grow is cayennes, and then probably jalapeno after. But cayennes and vinegar poured over some turnip greens, man, that's some kind of good. Yeah, probably going to be my last pack because I've lost two friends in the last 3 months from heart attacks, and both of them smoked. So, yeah, this probably be my last pack. I'm gonna give it up. If it kills me, I'm giving it up. Yeah, backyard. One day you'll be able to sit down and watch a live stream where I'm not smoking at all. That day is coming. Yeah, it's bad whenever you're smoking and you're just getting over a cold. So every time you inhale a draw of your cigarette, it makes you want to cough. I smoked way too long. The worst habit I ever picked up in my life. But the last few weeks I had in my mind to quit, and I have been cutting down until this friend of mine passed away. I got a friend that's got the same thing. He's on disability now. He worked at local bakery that they made stuff like graham cracker breading for pie shells, and they made saltine crackers. They made breader for restaurants for their fried products, and the flour dust he inhaled over the 10, 15 years he worked there. He can barely, he's given up cigarettes, but he ain't gave up his weed. He's still gonna smoke his weed. I've told him he needs to make friends with somebody out in Colorado and just every once in a while arrange a meetup and get him some oil and be done with it. That way he ain't got all the harsh chemicals of the smoke in it. I don't know. My grandmother quit cold turkey. How she did it, I don't know. But she quit cold turkey, and she'd smoked for God since the 40s. And it was in the late 80s when she quit. And she did it cold turkey. Maybe that's why my mama didn't. We didn't go by my grandma's house for a month or so during that summer. Grandma might have been a little cranky. That's a good reason when you find out you're pregnant. By all means, Papa, share your secret because I've gotten close to quitting completely several times. I can get down to about 4 or 5 a day. You know, there have been times when I've walked around for half an hour with a cigarette in my mouth and I was completely fine. You might have a point. Maybe if I throw away the lighter and keep the cigarettes, I might be able to do something. But a lot of it's got to do with that hand mouth movement. It's a habit. Constantly doing this is it's a relaxation thing. It relieves stress whenever you. It raises your blood pressure, but oddly enough, smoking a cigarette relieves stress. And doing this, that hand mouth habit, that might be something that'll help out. Either that, or I could just buy a cigar and just chew on the thing all day. Whenever I got a cigar, I don't care about having a cigarette. But my thing is, one cigar that I like costs as much as a pack of cigarettes. Well, my last relationship ended because I got tired of drinking and she didn't. And true story, she wound up starting to drink with the neighbor who was single. And they brought up the subject of a threesome. And I thought, here's my way out. So we all decided to have a threesome. And I got mine first and I went to put my clothes on because his son was watching TV in the living room. They said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to get a beer. I'll be right back. I went and got a 6-pack out the refrigerator, got in my car, drove off, and left her there. 3 days later, he called me and said, when are you coming to get her? I said, I'm not. You done test drove that car. You bought it. And I ain't called. I ain't had nothing to do with it since. That was 4 years ago, and the money I've saved in beer has been wonderful because she could drink me under the table. I've heard of people keeping their last cigarette in a glass case. I never heard of anybody keeping a whole unopened pack of cigarettes. That'd be like an emergency pack of cigarettes for me. Something stressful happened, I'd be opening it up. Knowing my luck, it'd be 5 years down the road and you light the thing and woof, there goes your eyebrows. Yeah, Chris, my last one, that was pretty much, I had to stay drunk to stay with her too. But after that night, nah, I never went back and got her. He called, wanting me to come get her, and he called a second time, wanting me to come get her, said he was going to bring her back. And I said, you ain't bringing her back to my house because I moved. I got back to my hometown, I moved, didn't tell him where I moved, changed my phone number, said, she's yours. I got rid of her. That was kind of iffy. They say secondhand smoke will kill you faster than smoking the cigarette because at least this is filtered. Secondhand smoke ain't filtered. You might have been killing him faster than you. You might have been able to watch him die before you died. But I might have to start buying cigars or either chewing tobacco. Because if I've got to chew tobacco, I don't want a cigarette. I'm happily single, and the way I look at it, I'm not looking for a woman anymore because if I go looking, I pick the wrong one. So I'll let the Lord bring one to me. And so far, it's worked out pretty good. I ain't had any bad relationships since the last one. And when the good Lord wants me to have a woman, he'll bring her to me, and I'll know because I'm not looking. Thanks for stopping in, Papa. I'll be checking out those videos, see how that garden's coming, because I like those rocks around those raised beds, man. That looks good. Anytime you see me, Papa, you're more than welcome to jump in. You got the wrench now. I like the way you think. Plus, I got a feeling you'd be a good troll slayer if I ever get a troll. I've only had one. I felt so important. I had a troll. Then I only had one. Now I feel so neglected. Dale, I think you'll find his channel very interesting. He's very smart, very intelligent guy. He does his research on what he grows, and he learns how to do it. Thanks for stopping, Christy. Yeah, I probably ought to get off of here in a little bit myself, but I got a few more minutes. I don't have to get up too terribly early in the morning. When I get through with this, I'm going to check over a couple answers to a biology project I got due, and then I'm going to hit the sack hopefully before 1 a.m. My body's still adjusting to this time change. Papa Pepper grows a lot in on raised beds too. His might not be as high as yours, but you'll probably get a lot of helpful hints from him. All right, backyard, good having you. Thanks for stopping in. It's 11:30 where I am. Good night, backyard. I hope tomorrow's not a hard day at work for you. Yeah, the mornings are always the worst part, especially like last night. Whenever I got in, I forgot time changed, and then I stayed up working on some biology, and I watched a couple of YouTube videos. The next thing I know is my clock said 2:30 in the morning, and it hadn't switched over yet. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, this time I better go to bed. It's 2:30 in the morning. I want to go to church tomorrow. Well, in actuality, it was 3:30 in the morning, and Morgan didn't make it. So Morgan was a little disappointed in himself. There you go, Dale. Make it as easy as you can for yourself. So, are you keeping any breeding stock, or are you trying to just get out of the pig business and step for yourself? And did you have to teach them if it's a male or female pig? So, the two you kept are they breeding stock or just for personal consumption? Because I know North Carolina is a big pork producing state, so I imagine it's pretty hard to make a living off pigs up there. Oh, time for a new boar, huh? Dale, I'll go ahead and tell you, if you're just wanting to grow your own to eat, you're better off with feeder pigs because keeping a hog all year round can get expensive to feed. 250 for show stock, that's not bad. Because unless you can find some people that are willing to purchase pigs for feeder pigs or either purchase cuts of meat, you really don't want to get into breeding pigs because they multiply faster than rabbits and they are expensive to feed when you start keeping a breeding pair year round. I imagine the only reason why you can make it work, Chris, is because you grind your own feed and you buy it in bulk. Yeah, you barely cover your feed. You wouldn't even cover your feed cost if you just sold feeder pigs. But Dale, that's the only way you'll make it with pigs is if you can find somebody to buy them once you get them up to butcher size. Is if they want to buy half a hog or a whole hog and have it processed. That's the only way you'll be able to do it. Yeah, try your hand at a feeder pig and then keep track of your feed costs just to get it up to butcher size. Because even after butcher size, they're going to keep growing their entire life, and that food bill is going to go sky high on you. Even in Living Traditions Homestead have figured out that keeping breeders on hand is not the way to go. It costs too much, so now they just buy feeder pigs for however many people want pork from them and from themselves, and that's how they do it. Yeah, you mentioned you were getting ready to get licensed to sell cuts of pork. I wish I could do that here in Georgia. I've got to sell the whole or the half, and it go to the processor, and then those guys pick it up from the processor. So I'm going to breed this gilt that I got once, and then she's going to freezer camp, and then I'll probably do the same thing with the rest of them that I don't sell as feeder pigs because she's getting to be a little bit demanding on the food. But then again, working at Hardee's, it helps out because I'll take all the food waste they have up there and I'll bring it home, and she loves it. I just don't tell her that there's bacon in some of it. I just tell her she's having a relative for dinner. But if I do get anything other than just a feeder pig or two for myself, I will get registered. If I'm going to do anything with selling, I'll get registered pigs. That way I get a better price for them. But if I do pigs, I don't plan on doing anything other than one or two a year just for feeding out to eat, because it's really not cost effective for me. But you do have some nice looking Durocs. I believe that's what you got, ain't it? Duroc? As long as the money's coming in, go for it. You'll know when it's time to get out. You've been doing it long enough. So you gonna crossbreed for the productivity? Because I know if you crossbreed them, you get a higher level of productivity or and a faster growth rate usually. Yeah, I've had a lot of comments on that old hamster out there. They love that black and white. They think that's just the prettiest pig in the world. Yeah, I got a guy that's supposedly looking for a boar to bring over to mate with my gilt, but he hadn't been able to get one yet. But if he don't hurry up, she's going to freezer camp. Yeah, they're a pretty good tasting hog. I gotta admit. And she's a pretty long pig, so I ought to get plenty of bacon off of her. But I would like her bred one time before I butcher her. That way I've got two piglets to raise out for next year. But now, if you hear all these people on YouTube say it, we're doing it wrong. We ought to be going with the old guinea hog and mangalistas. I ain't going with that. They might taste good and they might be heritage breeds in the old way, but I'm going for production. I want a hog that's got some meat on it. I don't want no little old miniature hog. Yeah, ever since I quit chasing women, I've had a whole lot less problems in my life and a whole lot less drama too. Like I said, when the right one comes along, the good Lord will put her in front of me. I ain't got to go looking. He's an on-time God. Whenever it's the right time, he'll give her to me. Yeah, there's a reason why people started breeding hogs up to be the way they are today. They didn't get enough meat off of them. They can say all they want to about that guinea hog. They ain't but so much lard you can use in a year, and the rest of it's just, I'd rather have meat than lard. And a guinea hog ain't got no bacon on it, no how. About the only thing you're going to get off this, a half size ham and maybe a Boston butt. It really ain't worth the food you put in it. And a mangalista, I don't care about. Little old bitty curly haired hog look like a damn poodle with a snout. I ain't got no use for them neither. But you know how these younger people are. They got to be different. They got to feel important, like they're preserving heritage. I'll leave that to the petting zoos and all these other historic places like Mount Vernon, where they got George Washington's home and Thomas Jefferson's home place. I'll let them do all that heritage stuff. Yep. And with them guinea hogs, as slow as they grow, you're going to spend more than that on them. You'll wind up wasting your money. Because I'm not growing one for the pleasure of it. I'm growing one for the production. I want the meat as fast as I can get it, as cheap as I can get it. Exactly. They're about as useless as a wild hog in your damn garden. And I've got wild hogs around me, and luckily they ain't found my garden yet, because then I'll be eating wild hogs. Unless it's a boar, I ain't eating a wild boar. Them things are nasty. They even smell nasty. Goats aren't as heavy on your pocketbook when it comes to feeding them out. And if you get dairy goats and you can tolerate the milk, they're all right. And you can actually make a little bit of money off of it selling the milk on the down low or making cheese out of it. And they're not bad tasting. But unless you're in an area where there's a market of Arabs or Mexicans, I wouldn't even bother with goats. I've got 3, and that's just because I don't want to mow that grass out there. So I've fenced that area in, and I ain't got to worry about it. And I'll breed them, and I know I've got a population of Mexicans here in town that I can sell them to, and you know I can get $150 a piece for a good sized yearling. Cost me very little to grow them to that size, so I make money off of them. And if I run out of Mexicans here, I'll just drive them down to Savannah, Georgia, or either Jacksonville, Georgia, where there's a good population of Arabs, and I'll sell them out in a heartbeat. They'll be sold before I even get there. But personally, I like goat beef myself. It's great on the barbecue grill, and it makes awesome burgers. And the steaks ain't bad neither. But I don't expect myself to ever have more than about 7 or 8 at the time unless I get a good market. Now, if I get a market, I'll expand. But until then, nah. Now I'll go ahead and tell you, if you can put up a fence and throw a glass of water through it, a goat will get through it. Mine know how to get out. I don't know how it is, but they can get out at the drop of a hat. And they'll take that electric fence shot. I should have went with 1 joule instead of half a joule. That half a joule just don't get them much at all. Well, thank you, Kelly. I'm glad you at least listened. It's always good having you here, and you go take care of them folks. If they give you any trouble, switch their meds out with somebody else. I don't know now, Chris. I lived in a trailer park one time, and I came home from work, and these guys were all in their 20s, and they had a cow hanging from the pine tree, and they were cutting him up with a skill saw. I've got 3 female goats, and I'm hoping 2 are going to give me kids in April. The right side's looking a little plump because the left side is lunch, the right side is the baby. So I'm hoping, if nothing else, maybe I'll get 1. But the younger Mexicans, they still will do it. They'll dress them out in a heartbeat. Because I tell you what, I ain't never seen nobody hang a cow in a pine tree and butcher it out. But by God, these Mexicans did, and that they had 2 skill saws going to town on it. And they gave me a big old hunk of the neck meat, and that was pretty good. And I only aged it for about 4 days in the refrigerator, and then I threw it on the grill, and it was nice and tender. It was pretty good. And it was just an old Holstein cow. It wasn't even a beef cow. And on top of that, it wasn't even a young one. It was an old one that was being called out the dairy. That might have been why it tasted so good because it actually had the age in it and the flavor, but it wasn't tough at all. Oh, them American Mexicans, they about as worthless as American Americans. Most of the ones that I have around here, they're from Mexico. They're old school. And they brought their traditions with them and they're teaching them to their kids. Which you can't even find American kids now that would do the stuff we did on the farm growing up. There ain't no, whenever I was in high school, the summertime job we'd all line up for was working in blueberries. You won't find a white kid working in blueberries today. 25 years later, that's beneath them. They won't work in them. It's all Mexicans. And that one white guy that's watching over them to make sure they get the job done. And that ain't a young guy neither. He's an older white guy. Yeah, the older ones from Mexico that have been here a while, they'll still do it. But usually the ones that I sell to, that I found that'll dress out their own meat, are the ones that came from Mexico, where they're used to going to getting their stuff from the market live and then carrying it home and butchering it, or even having the guy butcher it right there in front of them. Oh man, if kids today had to work 1 week in tobacco like we did as kids, they would have a whole different attitude. Especially if it come up a rainstorm while you out there in that tobacco field, that water dripping off them tobacco leaves gets all over you, and that nicotine sets in your skin, and you start getting sick and puking. Oh my lord! Worst thing in the world was to work in tobacco when it was raining. You'd beg for them to stop the tractor at the end of the road. Just stop the tractor. We don't want this anymore. But they'd keep on going. I didn't get paid for what I did around the house when I was a kid, neither. But I tell you what, I do miss the days of tobacco because we had flue cured tobacco down here hanging in the barn, and whenever that stuff get nice and hot and it start drying out, that smell was so sweet. Oh my God, it smells so good. But I've seen 3 or 4 fields in the last 5 years with tobacco in it. Just no market for it anymore. And I actually saw a little bit of corn grown down this way this year. Corn used to be a big commodity down here, but they quit growing it years ago in favor of blueberries and onions and stuff like that. But I actually saw a few pretty stands of corn this year. That's the first corn I've seen growing in more than like enough for a farmer to feed his livestock. 5, 10 acre patches. I haven't seen anything over that in 15, 20 years. And this past year, I saw several 100, 200 acre fields of corn, and that was amazing to me because there's nowhere around here that even buys corn anymore. Yeah, we used to be all tobacco around here. Tobacco was king. We had 3 tobacco warehouses in my county. Ain't a one here now. None. I don't even think there's one within 50 miles of where I live. I think the closest one might be Statesboro, Georgia. Y'all grow that burley tobacco up there, don't you? Because down here, all ours was flu cured. They tried the burley, but it didn't work out very well. We got a lot of cotton, soybeans on the downhill, but we got more peanuts than anywhere else in the country. Georgia produces half of the peanuts there that are grown in this nation. That's a big industry where I am is peanuts. From Macon, Georgia on, well, a little bit above Macon, but Macon, Georgia on south, it is peanut heaven. Man, I'm gonna have to go up there and visit you. I'd love to smell tobacco again. Yeah, that hemp's gonna be a good thing. It's also gonna have a few drawbacks because I used to know folks that lived out in Iowa where they used to grow fields and thousands of acres of it to make rope for World War II. And these guys would go in there and they would map out an area where they went in, how many paces. They'd cut down the wild hemp. They'd put their pot in there. They'd grow it out. They'd come back, pick it, stalk and all, get pulled over by the cops. And the cops would let them go, laughing, thinking that they can smoke that whole damn field and all they're going to get is a headache, not knowing these guys went in there and took out the wild hemp and planted their own. I'm just waiting on Georgia to figure out how they're going to do the hemp growing because I'd like to get in on that on the ground floor because that's going to be an up and coming industry. I got a feeling this actually going to be a very good producer as far as cash crops because there's just so many things you can do with it. I mean, you got the fibers you can use, the oils that are in it you can use. The entire plant is usable. A lot of it will go to cancer research and stuff like that. Well, I used to grow it years ago, but I ain't grown it 20 years. But if they legalize hemp and it actually starts to become the cash crop that I think it might in the next 5 or 10 years, I'll grow hemp. And if they ever legalize recreational use in Georgia, yeah, I'll grow the regular for them too. Hell, I might even partake of a little bit of it. Because years ago, when I used to grow it when I was younger and stupid, I grew some pretty good stuff. I had folks wanting mine. And I wasn't even growing that hybrid stuff that you got out of High Times magazine. It was just plain old seed you found at the bottom of the bag that you got from somebody that just old, basically yard grass. I've heard there've been a lot of people that've been cheated that way, and Gold Star Farm was looking into doing that, and I think he's not going to do it because they wouldn't offer contracts. You know, now if I had a contract at $50 a pound, yeah, it'd be worth my time. But if you're gonna tell me $50 a pound, then do like you got $9 a pound. No, it ain't worth my time. I know how you feel, Dale, because I have to take Percocet for where I broke my back, and I'd rather smoke pot myself. But I'm keeping my ass out of trouble. I ain't getting caught up in none of that drama. Yeah, you did. You took a big hit on that one. That's why I said that I'm gonna wait and see how it sorts out and where the chips fall before I even put my lot in on that. Because I'd grow it if I knew I was gonna be making a profit, but they just now legalized growing it. Yeah, they do. That's why Morgan has left over every month because Morgan don't take them unless Morgan's actually hurting and he's done something. See, I stagger my workload. If I've got fence posts to put down, I'll wait till I've got enough of them that I know how many I can do in a day, and I'll do that, and I'll get done with it, and then I'll take my pain pill. Other than that, there's days of the week where I won't take them because I'm not doing anything hard. I could probably go 4 months without filling a prescription because I've got that many left over because I'm just not going down that road. I've seen too many people get hooked on that stuff. Now, my doctor, I trust because I went to high school with him and we've been friends our whole lives. And he's already told me if there's ever any way he could diagnose me with something to where I could get a prescription for marijuana that had the THC in it, he was going to let me know and get it for me. And then I wouldn't, because I told him, I said, man, if you can get me on one of those programs where I can get medical marijuana, you won't have to prescribe me any more pain pills and you won't have to prescribe me anything for anxiety. I'll just smoke one and be done with it. But Georgia's medical marijuana laws just won't allow it. Not at this time. But I got a feeling in another 5 or 10 years, the whole damn country's going to be legal. And pretty much whenever I go see my doctor, I tell him what I think I have and what antibiotic I want. And he gives it to me because he knows I'm pretty much right. Well, this is odd. I got sirens coming down the road, and I'm on a highway out in the middle of nowhere, 15 miles from town. And it was blue lights, not red lights. It wasn't an ambulance. Must have been a car wreck. Blue lights lets me know there ain't no reason for me to go check it out. I trust them about as much as I do lawyers and bankers. There ain't nothing for them to be on me about unless they want to say I got too many animals on my 2 acres. And so far, I ain't had no complaints from PETA, so Or another one of my favorite charities to run down is the Humane Society of the United States. Oh, they wouldn't take me alive, trust me. I got enough ammunition and rifles in this house. If I'm going, at least two or three of them going with me because Morgan don't break the law. Hell, I don't even drive over 55. It costs me too much in gas. Oh, there went his backup without the lights on. So they don't even get me for a speeding ticket. And I don't go to town unless it's to work or to school or to get groceries. And I organize all that on one day like I do my hard work because I ain't got the money to be wasting on gas to drive 15 miles to town and 15 miles back. If it can't come in the mailbox, then it ain't important. It'll wait till the next planned trip, and that's once a week unless I'm working. But yeah, last time I got pulled over by a cop, they tried to tell me my blood pressure pills were Schedule 4 drugs, which is stuff like Xanax, anxiety medication, and that I was in illegal possession of them because the prescription bottle was out of date. And I looked at him and I said, "No, Bobo, read the label on the bottle. Now go look it up in your computer on your dashboard in there, and you see what this is for. This is high blood pressure medicine, just like it says on the bottle. And if you want to, here's one of them. Put it in your hand and go run it through the picture ID that I know you got in your car." Made him look stupid. Then he had to search my car. It's like, no, I don't want you to search my car. Well, we can wait here all afternoon and I can get a warrant. And I'm like, well, if I didn't have somewhere to be in half an hour, that's exactly what we do. But I got somewhere to be, so do what you want to do. Do you have any weapons in the car? Yes, I do. There's a Marine issue K-bar in between the seats. There's a hatchet in the back seat, and there's a hammer in the passenger seat. So there you go. Knock yourself out. He got mad because he couldn't find the gun, and I had a concealed carry permit anyway. Wanted to write me a ticket. It ain't working, Bobo. Not happening today. I'm too damn old for some young punk like you to catch me on something stupid. Besides, if I had any pot or any illegal drugs on me, do you think I'd be carrying them in my car? Hell no. If I call them and they come here, it's gonna be at least a half an hour wait. So by the time they get here, whoever I called the police on will probably be laying in a pool of blood outside in the yard. No, they don't know the law. They just think they do. Their job is just to arrest you and then let the judge sort it out. That way, they've got an arrest on their record that makes them look good. Because in a small town like I live in, these people don't know us. They're just here to make a name for themselves by saying, "Oh, I had this many arrests for these charges," and then they move on to a bigger city, and then from there a bigger city, and they just keep going. Hell, we've got a couple of them that screw the female inmates. If that hadn't happened that one of them got pregnant, nobody would have known about it. Cops are as crooked as they're as crooked as a congressman. I ain't got no use for cops. and I ain't got no use for bankers. I've got a little bit of a use for lawyers because I got one that's a personal friend of mine that does favors for me and helps me out whenever I need paperwork done. And doctors, unless he was, other than him being a good friend of mine and him knowing that I know what I'm talking about whenever I say I might have this going on, and he runs a test and he's like, "Yeah, you're right, you got this." I was going, and I'll say, "Well, I'll take this antibiotic for it." And he goes, "Well, that's what I was thinking that you were going to ask for, and yep, that's what I'm prescribing you." That's the old-fashioned way of getting money in America. Sue somebody else for it. Now I've got somebody pulling up in my driveway, and it's the people from the church. I'll be right back. Why? Yeah. Well, it was just blue lights on one, so that was the top. The other one, didn't have no lights on. Yeah, they went that way. I figured it's probably a wreck down there at the intersection. There wasn't no reason for them to go any further. Unless they, well, no, it was an SUV that went by. It wasn't a regular cop car. So it couldn't just take control. Unless they went down there and then turned back to the right to go back into the county. No, but I, no, but I'm in here talking to Kayla. Well, I appreciate it. I didn't realize it was daylight savings time, and I got off late last night, and I didn't even hit the bed till 2:30 yesterday time, and then come to find out it was actually 3:30. Then I had that just been in a field mood all day, and I finally took my anxiety medicine a little while ago when I got back to the funeral home. Had to go up there and do that. A friend of mine passed away Friday. Yeah. No, they kept on going. Yeah. I appreciate it. I would have just smiled. Smiled. I can believe it. Let me, yeah, I know. I'll see what we can work out. I'll see what I can work out. Yeah, it's the next Tuesday after the meeting. I got an oral surgery. But yeah, I, not next week, the week after. Week after. The week after the meeting. All right. Yeah, that's why we got to redo the whole meeting. Good deal. All right. Let me get back in and finish talking to Taylor. Tell her well, tell her I appreciate it. Yeah. All right, sure will. Oh man. Yeah, that's the way it goes. They want to come in your yard. You know, Georgia's got the stand your ground law. Had a guy when I lived in Jessup, Georgia. We were sitting around a table in the front yard drinking beer, and he said something to me, and I answered his question. I can't remember what it was about. Next thing I know, I go to stand up to get a beer, and he sucker punches me, knocks me down to the ground, and he gets on top of me, and I grab a pair of scissors and I stick him in his side. And then he finally figured that was time to leave, and I face all swole up, both my eyes black, nose bleeding everywhere. I walked to the front door because I always keep a pistol by the front door, and I cocked that pistol and I said, "If you ever fucking come back in my yard, I'll fucking kill you." That dumbass turned around, and as soon as he set foot in the yard, bam, got him right across the gut. The cop asked me, "Did you shoot him?" I said, "Yes, sir, I did." He said, "Well, I'll just mark it down in the report." Didn't arrest me, nothing. Didn't even take me to jail for questioning because he'd already seen I'd been attacked and I was defending myself. And I took that guy's t-shirt off the clothesline it was hanging on in the neighbor's yard after they washed it for him and hung it out to dry. And I still got it put up in my bedroom from where I shot him. It's got the bullet hole in it. I told him not to ever come back. That stupid ass came back, so I shot him. Luckily for him, my eyes were swollen, so I couldn't really get a center mass shot. But it was enough that he had 7 or 8 stitches to sew his gut up to keep his intestines from falling out. After that, I didn't have a problem with him no more. He never came back to my yard. But then I got evicted for defending myself in my yard when I was the one attacked. I should have sued the landlord, but I said to hell with it. If he's going to let people like this live here, I don't even want part of it. Oh, yeah, you can't help but get scared because anything you say, they'll use on you and twist it around because the cops got the right to lie to you, but you ain't got the right to lie back to the cop. So I've learned I don't say nothing to cops. I'll give them my ID. They can run it, see if I got any warrants. And if they ask me a question, I'll just look at them and say, "I'm sorry, I don't feel like talking right now." I'll be polite. I won't be rude. And if they keep on, I'll look at them and say, "You know what? Anything I say can be used against me in court. So I choose not to answer your questions at this time." And then if they keep on, I'll say, "Okay, I want an attorney present if you're going to keep asking me questions." And then they shut up. Yeah, that's the worst part. Is he was in your yard, you defended yourself, but yet you're the one they go after. They don't look at it that way. That's just like if somebody comes in my house to rob me and they're walking out with my TV and I got a dog and it bites them, he can sue me for that dog biting him, even though he broke into my house. We have let the liberal left go too damn far in this country. But yeah, that's why I carry the knife in my car. It's in between the seats where you can't see it. That K-bar is razor sharp too. Because if I have to use it, I will use it, and you gonna drop back in the oven. Yeah, you were lucky that common sense prevailed, and I'm glad he had to pay your lawyer fees. And I hope your lawyer doubled his price on that, because some folks ain't got the common sense God gave a turnip whenever it comes to leaving folks alone and not stirring the pot until it gets to the point that somebody gets hurt. They ain't got good sense. No, but that was the fellow from the little church down the road that they sent me a text today. Are you coming to church? Look, I go to two churches. You know this. If I'm not at one church, I'm at another church. Don't text me and ask me if I'm coming to church. And if I'm not coming to your church, don't ask me why I didn't come. It's none of your business, or I would have told you. But they thought that sirens coming by, it sounded like they stopped down here, and I'm like, no, they kept on going. And I can tell you, it was a county guy because it was an SUV. It wasn't a state trooper, and it wasn't an ambulance. They didn't have no red lights. I said they must have got down to the end of the road and turned right coming back into the county because I live in a little triangle area where three counties come together. Damn, he was stupid, wasn't he? And probably drunk. But I bet you ain't had another moment's problem out of him. See, and that's the one thing about weed. Weed'll never make you want to fight. But you let somebody get on that crack or cocaine or meth or some of that other shit, it'll make them stupid. They'll fight you in a heartbeat. I ain't got no. I can tolerate people that smoke pot, but the ones that do them other drugs, I ain't got no damn use for. Man, I'm surprised you've had any trouble out of anybody after what you did to him. That'd be one fella I would make sure I did not piss off. Whenever you have to do something like that to somebody that starts with you and you're protecting yourself, folks ought to realize that, hey, that guy right there, if he's protecting himself, he ain't gonna stop until you're dead or either you're so far out of it that you can't fight back. Because I'm the same way. If I've got to protect myself against somebody, I'm not stopping till you're dead or you're unconscious one. But it's sad that people are so damn stupid that they just I don't know what's happened in this country in the last 25 years other than Democrats. And they want to take our guns away. Hell, I was watching a YouTube channel today and started reading the comments where this one guy had his goats attacked by a Great Dane and he wound up losing like 15 goats. And the state patrolman told him that was on his way to his house not to shoot the dog. Don't shoot the dog. It's just going to cause you problems. Then when he got there, he said, "Man, I am so sorry. I thought you were just overreacting, and it was like a Chihuahua had bit one of your animals, and because it was a bloodbath. I mean, the dog was covered in blood, and the dog winds up going to the pound. They give him one of them attitude test, and they adopted him out to another family somewhere else. And the lady is paying this man back $25 a month over 10 years for the goats that dog killed. What kind of inconvenience is that for her? This man lost income off the bat because they were all pregnant, and he lost potential income, and all he gets is $25 a month for 10 years. That's $250 a year for 10 years. That's $2,500. He lost way more than that in potential income, and that's all he got. That dog would not have left my property alive. I'm sorry. I don't blame you one bit. If he was high on shit and acting the fool and you already had a restraining order out on him, there was a reason you had it out to begin with. You come up and you're a threat to my family, I'll kill you in a heartbeat. I am all about protecting myself, my family, and my property. And he ought to consider himself very lucky that he got off that easy. Granted, he went through a lot of pain and probably a few surgeries and had to pay a really big lawyer fee for you and probably for him at the same time. But he got off really, really lucky. Because if it had been me, he probably wouldn't have left alive. He'd have bled out before they got there. Those are the worst ones, too. 9 out of 10 of them are all mouth, but then there's that one, and you happen to run into that one. It's just like I told a girl that's a friend of mine, if she ever had any problems, because we've talked about dating, and the only reason why we haven't dated is because her mom went to school with me, and her mom hates me because her mom's a drama queen and would always try to get the younger kids on the bus to argue and fight. And I'd get on to her about it because back in those days, we didn't put up with bullying like they do nowadays. So her mom don't like me at all, or otherwise she'd probably be sitting here right beside me. But I told her, I said, if you have any problems, you come to my house. You spend a week or two here with me. And if they come here, trust me, you won't have no more problem. Because the sheriff knows me, half of the deputies know me all from school, and they know Morgan ain't gonna start no trouble. And he ain't gonna take no trouble neither. Because I had night hunters one time. They got me and busted my lip right here where I could stick my finger through it, scarred down, got me with the butt of a rifle right here because I had a double barrel shotgun. And by the time I'd fired my first round as a warning shot, they started coming toward me. And then I noticed they were about 15 or 16. And I didn't want to kill a kid. I've learned different from that now. I don't care if you 10 years old, you point a gun at me, I will kill you. Because the cop asked me, "How, Morgan, I know you. How come there ain't one of them laying in the ground bleeding to death right now?" I looked at him, I said, "Because they were about 15 or 16. And I didn't want it on my conscience that I killed a kid." Oh, yeah. I had a good friend before she passed away from cancer that was a prison guard, and she actually got pregnant by a convict that was under her watch. Yeah, and that would have been the last night she was there too. Because if she'd have done that and egged it on like that, she'd have been hitting the road real fast. But I don't do the drama. That's another reason why I say I'll wait for the Lord to put the right woman in front of me. I ain't gonna go looking for one because I always pick the wrong one. I don't need the drama, and I know if the good Lord provides me with a woman, there won't be no drama. It'll be the right way it's supposed to be. So I quit looking about 4 years ago, and I ain't found the right one yet. But I ain't had the drama, and I ain't had the BS to put up with. And I've got a cat that's the best pussy I ever had because if I come home late, he don't fuss at me. If I come home smelling like another cat, he doesn't get jealous. Perfect roommate. She thought because he was a convict that he might have a chance. That's what she thought. Because convicts usually have a habit of not thinking things through, and they're stupid as hell with their so-called bravery, and will do any damn thing for a piece of ass. But yeah, 6'3", 300 pounds, ex cav, no. And if I were going to be in the army, I believe Air Cav would be the one I'd want to be with. Because I've read a lot about them in Vietnam. The first of the ninth, them were some bad boys. Apocalypse Now is one of my favorite movies. I like some Air Cav, especially when you can move that much firepower around that quick. Man, the Air Cav is something else. Yeah, she might have been thinking that. Armor's not bad, but I don't think I want to be in a tank on a modern battlefield. I don't think the life expectancy is very long. But you're right. She was probably thinking that, not realizing that you already had the restraining order. He was on your property and you were defending yourself. No jury in hell would convict you. Just like that guy with the goats I was telling you about that got killed by that Great Dane. I'd have shot that damn dog and I'd have found out who owned it and then I'd have sued her. Because ain't a jury in the world gonna convict that man of hurting her dog whenever that dog did that much damage to his property. Well, even if you shot him, it still would have been self-defense. He was threatening you. You already had the restraining order on him. Her plan was stupid from the get-go. Yeah, after that night with the night hunters, from then on, anytime I pointed a gun at somebody, if I pull the trigger, you can guarantee I'm going to shoot to kill. There ain't no warning shots no more. But it's like that girl I was telling you about. I said she could come stay here for a couple weeks, and I'd deal with it. I've got her storage shed. She's turning into a tiny house in my backyard now because the guy she's seeing is in with a or was in with a biker gang, and he got into a little bit of trouble with the biker gang, and they wanted to be all Billy Bob Badass, and actually broke their own rules and called the law and had him arrested. And he's still facing jail time, but he's putting off the court date as long as he can. Well, I don't either, but if I got to, I will. And they needed somewhere to put their tiny house until they got situated and found a piece of land to buy and move it there, while they're fixing it up. And I said, well, you can put it here since you're in a hurry to get it out of their area. And when the driver brought the thing here, I asked him, I said, did anybody ask you where you were bringing this? And he said, no. I said, good. Because I don't have motorcycles drive by my house very often, especially ones that's got guys wearing patches from motorcycle gangs. And I said, and I told both of them point blank, first time I see a motorcycle come by my house with a patch on, I'm calling the sheriff and I'm letting him know the whole story. And the next time it happens, I'm going to let him know there's going to be a dead biker on the highway because I'm going to take that as a threat to my personal safety. That way there ain't no repercussions on me. Because at the same time I call him, I'll be down at the magistrate's office and I'll be filling out restraining orders on the entire damn group of them. So that anyone that wears that patch, if they drive by here, they've already broke the restraining order because I'm within 50 feet of the highway. They can't go down that highway and be with less than 50 feet away from me. But so far, nobody's came by. Nobody knows. Her parents don't even know it's here. And as a matter of fact, I might have it sold for $7,500, and she's going to give me $500 because she only wanted $7,000. She said anything you get over $7,000, you keep. So I told the church down the road about it, and they agreed to $7,500 because it comes with all the other materials they were using to fix it up: sheetrock, wire, insulation, the sink that hadn't been put in yet. It's got a tub in it. I mean, they've got it set up nice for a little tiny house for two people. You know, although they did fire 6 tear gas canisters in there, so I got to air it out a little bit. But they didn't realize that this guy that was in there holding himself up and not coming out, they didn't realize he's an ex-Marine. And I went to high school with the guy. He was recon. So he knew how to handle tear gas. He took a hammer and punched a hole in the wall and got a piece of PVC pipe, and he was breathing through that, and he had a wet towel over his face to keep it out of his eyes and his nose. He was in there for like almost 8 hours. All right, buddy. If I'm off on Friday night, I'll catch your live stream, but I might be on another time, maybe twice this week. I don't know. It's getting my watch time up there because I got my cell phone over here with one of my other accounts from whenever I change phone numbers. It's going too. I'm getting them hours up there. One day I'll get monetized and maybe I'll be able to pay my internet bill. I doubt it, but one can always dream. Anyway, you have a good one and look forward to the next video. Good night, guy. there's anybody else online, let's chat. We're going to smoke the cigarillo this time. That way it'll keep going out and won't smoke near as much. Let's see who it says is in participants. As usual, ScrewTube don't let me know who's in the participants. So I don't know if there's anybody there or if folks were just nice enough and left their device on the stream. Either way, it's greatly appreciated. Now let me check my email. Facebook, somebody's got something in YouTube, smaller YouTube homesteaders. I'll check that out later. Message from Kayla, done read it. Message from Victor, done read it. They already know I'm not going to church today because I didn't go. And Midway USA, not buying a firearm at the time, so not worried about it. Or a part for a firearm, which I do need a part for a firearm. I got a double barrel that I need to get a trigger guard for because somebody that I let borrow it broke my trigger guard, calling himself cleaning it. Who the hell takes the trigger guard off to clean a damn gun? I don't know. You clean the inside of it, you wipe the outside of it, it's done. You don't have to take it off. The screws on the inside don't get dirty. And apparently this was put on with one of those pieces that go into the wood that stay in one screw. And he unscrewed the one screw and then lifted it. It didn't come up, so he gave it a little tug and the damn thing broke. So now I either got to super glue it back on or I've got to figure out how this thing goes on. It's an old Stevens 16 gauge double barrel, probably 70 years old. So I've got to try and find a diagram to the Stevens model double barrel that is and see if I can actually get a trigger guard for it or if I'm going to have to do the super glue cheap fix thing because I need to take the buttstock off anyway and realign it because it's got a couple cracks in it and get those fixed and then put it back together and get it all reassembled and glued. Because whoever had it before, I reckon for its age, it's in good shape, but it's got some rust pits on it, and I need to get those buffed out and re-blue it. But whenever I bought it, I couldn't read the words on the side of the barrel, so I figured it was a 20 gauge. And I got to noticing that the shells wouldn't pop out. And whenever I pulled them out, the ends of them were expanded so much that in my shotgun shell reloader, they wouldn't go down in the machine that pops the primer out and resizes the brass. So I'm wondering what the hell. So then the guy that broke the thing did a real good cleaning on it. I give him credit for that. And he got to where we could read the words because they were all just full of gunk and built up oil and dirt. And after a good toothbrushing with some WD-40, we could read it. 16 gauge. And I've always wanted a 16 gauge. Now I've got a 16 gauge side-by-side double barrel. So I'm really happy about that. I'm not happy about the trigger guard, but I'm happy about having a 16 gauge. The only problem is 16 gauge, they're expensive shells. So Morgan's probably just going to buy buckshot for it and use it for home defense, or maybe some turkey loads to take care of coyotes and such like that I hear them in the distance. So far, I've had no coyote problems. That's probably all I'll do is get one box of shells for it because I'm not allowed to buy a firearm again until December because of some bullshit that happened in the next county over, and I ain't gonna go into that. But yeah, I can't even pawn one of my weapons and get it back because of that until after December. So if I'm in a tight for money, I just go broke because I have nothing of value to pawn other than those, and I have several rifles and shotguns, and a couple of which I will pawn if I'm low on cash because I know I can pay them back because I don't pawn them for very much. But now that option is taken away until December or either January. I'm not sure which. But shaking hands with a black man cost me over $2,000. Let's put it that way. So racism is still alive and well in the South. Man, I had a cold last 2 weeks ago and I'm still coughing up and stuff. That's why I got to give these up. Two friends in the last couple months died from heart attacks and both of them smoked. I got to give these up. But it was nice to have so many people here tonight. And I thank everybody that was here. Um, I hope it makes my channel grow. I know it will. We had some good conversation. Talked a lot about gardening. You know, it was a good time. It took my mind off coming home from the funeral home and seeing one of the only people that I truly trusted in the world that passed away. You know, I can count them on less than one hand now because there's only one, two, three. Now there's only three people left in the world that I truly trust. Three. Oh, it finally came up. That's what it's done. Smoke glass. Use a lot more butane, but I smoke glass. Which one are they taking away?